knows there's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome. A few minutes late, but better late than never. Welcome to the stream. Why is my voice duplicated? Oh, hang on. Yeah. Hold on. Okay, now it's good. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Wait, no. I have to do the room cam so I can feel like a real broadcaster for a little while. Like Howard Stern, except with worse hair. Welcome to the stream, everybody. It's good to be here. Thank you for tolerating my slight lateness. I was actually in Nashville this morning, which, if you do the math, is a 2.5-hour drive away and 1 hour time change. But I didn't let every time I go to Nashville or Memphis, I forget that they're in Central Time, and then when I come home, I'm late because it's like, I gave myself 2.5 hours to get here. But I didn't do that this morning. It was a little tight, though, because getting up at 9 a.m. is, that's at 8 a.m. Getting up, no. I got up at 8, and then I hit the road by like 8:30. And then, of course, I had to stop at, oh, shit, hang on. First that's where I wanted to go. I had to stop at, look where I stopped. Look, who recognizes that? Huh? Oh, I know you're out there. I had to stop at the best dang place to stop for gas and potty. Oh, yeah. And you know it's the best because that's what all their billboards say. Just put a stop in at Buc-ee's. Yeah. And I on my way out there, I realized I had forgotten I had forgotten a jacket because it was warm enough yesterday that I went outside in my t-shirt. I was doing yard work. I planted like some trees on my property. My wife keeps giving Arbor Day Foundation money. I don't know why she does that. I guess she likes trees. And apparently if you give the Arbor Day Foundation money, they send you trees sometimes, like little tiny, they just look like sticks, but apparently if you stick them in the ground, then they'll grow into trees. So yesterday I was out. Apparently it's not as simple as just take the little tree stick and stick it in the ground. If you do, and we tried that one year, they sent a pecan tree. And by tree, again, it's just a tiny little stick with some roots hanging off of it that someday will be a tree. And she was like, my grandparents had pecans. And we used to always sit around the table cracking pecans when I was a kid. I love it. We're going to plant a pecan tree. I was like, okay. So we planted that thing, and it died. It didn't even, nothing happened. It just sat there and died. It might as well have just put a stick in the ground. And so this time, I went out there and I did all the things you're supposed to do when you plant a tree, which apparently you have to dig and turn and till like a 2-foot radius circle, and then you just stick the stick in the ground, and then it probably also still dies. But anyway, the weather was great, is what I'm saying. And I got on the road, realized I forgot my jacket, and so of course we stopped at Buc-ee's. And I'm like, you know what? If they tried to make me wear like a yellow and red ugly ass Buc-ee's logo, no. But this is tasteful. This is tasteful. This is comfortable. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna wear this, and I'm gonna rep the Buc-ee. Look at that. Look how good I look. It's a pretty nice jacket. It's pretty nice. It's pretty comfortable. And a tasteful little Buc-ee's logo. I look now like a Buc-ee's general manager, probably, maybe a store manager. I don't know how up the, but like, you know, who wears this jacket? Like I'd be wearing this to a corporate meeting on the golf course or something. Yeah. So I don't know where is Buc-ee's for the people who are wondering. Like, how can I go to a Buc-ee's? Can I just see a damn? No, can I see a map? I don't want a list of locations. Can I just see a map? Can I just see a map of Buc-ee's? Where did Buc-ee's come from? There didn't used to be a Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's didn't used to exist. Okay, so definitely none in Africa. None on the European continent. None in Australia, although Buc-ee's does feel like the kind of thing Australia would go for. Definitely no Buc-ee's in Antarctica. And, okay. Buc-ee's. There you go. There's far fewer Buc-ee's than it feels like there should be, considering how many goddamn billboards I see. All right, well, there you go. If you have the option of stopping at a Buc-ee's, you definitely should. Here's how you know. And by the way, this live stream is sponsored by Buc-ee's. No, sadly. Buc-ee's bathroom stalls. Real walls all the way to the bottom. Doors that close and latch. You can sit in there as long as you want. And just like, you know, if you like, sometimes you want to relax a little bit, you know, and kind of get in the mood. I don't know. And you feel a little stressed in a regular bathroom stall because, like, people are coming in, they're going. You got the little cracks on the doors. Like, are they looking at you? Or are you looking at them? And you're trying to check your social messages, you know, and you're feeling rushed because there's only 2 stalls. And, like, maybe it's rude of you to be sitting in the handicapped stall just checking your email while you wait for processes to occur. I told you I went to Nashville for the reason I went to Nashville is that I was like, God dang it, I am getting a Nashville hot chicken sandwich. I'm tired of everywhere I go that has a Nashville hot chicken sandwich on the menu. I order it. It is trash. It is garbage. It is a disservice to the name of the Nashville hot chicken sandwich. And I said, finally, F it. I'm going to Nashville. I'm driving all the way to Nashville. I went there and I ordered a hot chicken sandwich. And the lady said, how hot do you want it? And I said, Nashville hot. And she said, are you sure? It's going to make you cry. And I said, you better not be lying. I hope it makes me cry. It was good. And then I was glad to have the full Buc-ee's bathroom stall so I could... Anyway, I don't need to go into details. This topic is garbage, says June Loco. Well, I don't know what you're here for if not a discussion of hot chicken and gas station bathrooms. I guess we'll have to get on with the real topics of today. Welcome to the live stream. Start late. That's my motto. Start late and then just talk for 15 minutes about things no one cares about. And that's how you get a good live stream. So I drove 2 hours to get a Nashville chicken sandwich. Not exactly, but not exactly. Yeah. By the way, while I was there, I went to the Parthenon, which apparently Nashville has a copy of. You've seen it in Ken Herron's video, so it is FPV related. And the chicken restaurant I was going to was right by the Parthenon. And I get out and I hear a drone. I hear an FPV drone. I'm like, I'm going to go see if I can find this guy flying this drone and just say hello. Because anytime I'm out in the world and I see somebody flying an FPV drone, I go say hello. And then as I'm walking through the big park, I see the drone flying overhead and I'm like, who is, and then I notice it's a DJI FPV drone and I was like, they probably don't even know who I am. I went and got some chicken. Anyway. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to take your questions. Shut up, Mr. Camps. Zaxby's for the win. Zaxby's is fine, but don't you be comparing Zaxby's to a Nashville hot chicken sandwich. That's not okay. That's not okay. Stop. I think you didn't know what you did. I think you don't know how insulting that is, so we're going to just assume that was ignorance and let you off the hook. But you better watch it. I will put you in timeout. We're going to take your questions here in the chat. I take these questions here in the Discord, of course, because these people are my patrons and they pay my bills. And I will be, if you want to, I'll be getting your super chats coming up here in just a little bit. But I want to start taking questions from the regular chat first. Kenneth Des wants to know who won the Boxer radios. I haven't drawn that giveaway yet. I apologize. The cutoff for the giveaway was midnight on the 24th. The 25th was my birthday, and then we were into the weekend. I haven't drawn that yet. I will draw that soon. Don't stress about that. I'll draw it today, and I'll announce the winners today. So no sweat, though. The cutoff date for entries is fixed. So the fact that it takes me a couple days to actually announce the winners doesn't affect your odds of winning. No more people are sneaking in. Unseeing Whale, I would consider drawing them on stream, but I don't want to accidentally leak email addresses like I did on the previous giveaway stream. So I think I'm going to skip on that. I went to Red 615 Kitchen. For those of you who live in the Nashville area or are connoisseurs, I went to Red's 615 Kitchen in Nashville. That was the place I went. I know Hattie B's is like the common one, but I was like, I don't want to go to the common one. So I want to go somewhere different, somewhere small. It was very nice. I want to take this question from Acer FPV. Acer asks, hang on, Social Stream Ninja, dagnabbit. Can we do this? Is it going to work? It's not going to work. I can't bring the... Oh, there it is. I have a question, says Acer. I have lost the motivation to fly. I don't have my flying mates in my city. I fly alone. What do you recommend to find the motivation after 4 years of flying? So, Acer, I wanted to start off the stream with this question because I think that's a common thing that people experience. And ultimately, I don't have an answer for you as to how you can rekindle that. That's a very personal thing. But I think that you can ask yourself what you enjoyed about flying when you first got started. And I think a lot of times the reason you lose passion for something is, well, sometimes just other things get interesting and you don't want to spend time doing the thing anymore. But a lot of times I think what happens is you get passionate about it and then you get in your head something like you think yourself out of having fun. you start racing and then you start thinking, I have to win races, or like it's not worth it. And instead of doing it because you enjoy it, you convince yourself that it's only fun if you're accomplishing something. It's only fun if I can win races. It's only fun if I can do these tricks that I see other people doing. And if I can't, then I suck and I get discouraged. And then maybe you start to lose interest. And I think that there's absolutely a place for sort of driving yourself to be better. But if you have to balance that with the just enjoyment of the thing, because at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying your hobby, this is your hobby, it's not your job, okay? There have to be things in your life that you do simply because you enjoy them. And if you find competition and improvement and pushing yourself to be enjoyable, then do that. But if that's getting in the way of your enjoyment of your hobby, then just stop it. Just do something that's fun. Just sit down and think to yourself, what do I want to do? And if nothing comes to mind, then maybe you're just not into it, right? But the fact that you're asking, how can I get back into the hobby, suggests to me that somewhere in your mind there is something fun and enjoyable. And like, you might think, it would be really fun to fly a tiny whoop. And then all of a sudden your brain goes, but here are all these reasons why I can't do that. Just shut that up. Just stop. Ask yourself, what do I want to do? And then the very first thing that comes up, stop. Don't continue to all the reasons why that can't happen or why it's a bad idea. Just go do that thing for the pure fun of doing it. That's what I would say. Because usually there's an answer. Usually, like, you ever heard the trick where you flip a coin? If you can't make a decision, you say, okay, heads, I'm going to have steak, and tails, I'm going to have pizza for dinner. I can't decide. So you just take a coin. You say, heads, I have steak, tails, I have pizza. And you flip the coin, and while it's in the air, your brain will go, I hope it's heads. And then boom. Or you'll flip it, and it'll go, pizza. And then you'll go, it was tails. And then you wanted the steak or the pizza. Like, you could trick yourself into. But a lot of times, if you just shut your brain up for a second and ask, what do I want to do? Then for just a fraction of a second before your cognitive processes start effing you up, that little part of your brain that is always telling you the truth will spit out the answer. And then you just have to do the thing. So that's my answer. And not having other people to fly with, if what you want to do is fly with other people, that's tougher because, like, some people are an hour away from their nearest multi-GP chapter. And so it's like, well, maybe I could drive an hour, or maybe you don't have a car and you can't drive an hour. Maybe you could get online and you could do an online stream with Velocidrone or Liftoff, But if what you want to do is completely unachievable, sometimes that's the reality of life, in which case, you just got to kind of accept that maybe. But okay. How did you get involved with Rotor Riot? Asks Delta Kana. By the way, I apologize that the overlay, the chat overlay that I have, it is not picking up the Discord chat for some reason. So I still will be taking questions in the Discord, but I will not be able to put them on screen. I don't know if anybody cares about that but me. I've been trying to fix this for like 2 weeks, and I can't figure out why it's not working. So that's why it's not working now. I got involved with Rotor Riot when I heard that Chad Capper was starting Quad Camp, and I had wanted to do in-person drone instruction for a long time. I come from an in-person classroom instruction environment. I used to do corporate classroom instruction. The company I worked for sold a piece of software, a very complicated piece of software. And so when people bought the software, they would also usually buy seats in a class. and they would come to the class, and I would teach them, like it was a 3 or 5 day class, and I would teach them how to use the software. It was that complicated. And so I was very comfortable and enjoyed in-person instruction, which has a different vibe than teaching through internet videos, and really, really wanted to try to do an in-person class, but didn't really have the background to sort of set. I could create the class. I could create the class materials and the outline, but what I couldn't do was advertise and book classrooms in cities and decide which cities to do it in and handle customer service for people who bought seats. Those were all things I didn't enjoy or have experience with. So when I heard that Rotor-Rat was doing Quad Camp, I reached out to Capper and I said, Capper, I've had this idea. I love this idea. I want to be a part of it. And they were like, sure, come on. And then as part of that, I started doing episodes with them. So that's how that got started. Let's take some of the super chats. We got a couple super chats coming up. Cold Front and Penguin. The other thing that happens is that the chat history for my chat plugin doesn't go back very far. So also super chats that came in 20 minutes ago also can't go on screen, for the record. Rockcrawler FPV, I will not be going to Rampage this year. Unfortunately, I have a commitment in May that I committed to far in advance. And unfortunately, that commitment conflicts with Rampage. So as much as I hate to say it, I will be missing Rampage this year. That's sorry about that. Peter Schmidt, when will DJI OSD work with the Betaflight HD OSD? Peter, the Betaflight devs I speak to tell me that they are in contact with DJI engineers. The specific phrase that one of them used was, we finally broke through the marketing shell around the engineering guys. And they actually finally, the Betaflight devs are talking to actual DJI. This is the problem with DJI, is they have this marketing shield around the internals of the company. And it is very, very hard to get a straight answer about anything engineering because it all goes through marketing. And so it's kind of just BS half the time. They're doing their best, but they're you know. So if you can get to talk to an engineer, you can get shit done. And the Betaflight devs said, finally, we got some contact. It is expected that Betaflight 4.4, by the time it releases, that DJI will have support for the Betaflight HD canvas. That is obviously not a hard promise because DJI operates on their own schedule. But that is what the Betaflight devs I have spoken to have told me. And so that should be soon. It is, I can say with as much confidence as I can say about anything DJI, that it is coming. DJI wants to, at least today, in 6 months they may get bored and go on to something else, but at least today they very much want to work closely with devs, and they have reached out to Betaflight devs and will be getting that HD support. Cold Front and Penguin, thank you for a $2 super chat. Explain good versus bad internal resistance for lipos. So the short answer to that question is that when internal resistance is too high, then you have excess voltage sag. Basically your flights are shorter. When you hit the throttle, your voltage drops and you can't fly as long. Betaflight 4.4 is released. Are you shitting me? When did that happen? Sorry, Cold Front and Penguin. We'll get back to your question in a second. Betaflight. Oh well, I guess that didn't happen. Okay, Betaflight 4.4 is released. Wonderful. I mean, that is good news. 19 hours ago. Okay, it just happened yesterday while I was eating hot chicken. Okay, I can forgive myself for not noticing it. That's exciting. I guess DJI support for the HD OSD is not there yet. Sad, but there you go. So when internal resistance is too high, that's bad. When internal resistance is low, that's good. But what is a low versus a high internal resistance? And that is impossible to say exactly because the internal resistance of a cell depends on the size of the cell. In other words, the milliamp hours, okay? So in order to discuss internal resistance, I can talk, for example, I can easily talk about like a 1300 milliamp hour cell. I deal with 1300 milliamp hour cells all the time, something around the 1000 to 1300 milliamp hours, very common size for 5-inch freestyle, depending on if you're using 6S or if you're using 4S. So I can tell you that for a cell in the range of about 1000 to 1300 milliamp hours, an internal resistance of, let's say, around 20 is not that great, but probably still usable. An internal resistance of around 15, and I think the unit is milliohms. An internal resistance of around 15 is okay, but not really impressive. And then an internal resistance of down around 10 and into the single digits is very, very good, okay? So if you deal with a particular size of batteries all the time, like if we were to ask Aaron Ciotti, what's a good internal resistance for an 850 milliamp hour battery? Because he does a lot of stuff with Cinewhoops and micros. I guarantee you he could rattle that off. I can't. I'm sure it's milliohms, Robert Droner. Isn't it milliohms? I'm really sure it's milliohms. I'm really sure it's milliohms. If it was mega ohms, you'd have... Yeah, internal resistance is in the milliohm ranges. I know milli is tiny. The internal resistance is tiny. If it was mega ohms, then the battery would just waste all its energy as heat because of the resistance. It's definitely milliohms. So here's what I would recommend you do. When you buy batteries, whatever size batteries you buy, start to notice the internal resistance of the batteries when they are brand new. And you will start to fill in for yourself what a good versus a bad milliohm value is. Okay? Now, bear in mind that when you measure internal resistance, two things affect the internal resistance that must be controlled for. Number one is the temperature. A cold battery has a much higher internal resistance. A warm battery has much lower internal resistance. The best thing to do is to have the batteries inside at room temperature. And in most of the world, in much of the world that flies FPV anyway, you'll have climate control of some kind, and your internal temperature will be relatively stable. Now, that's not always going to be true, but what you want to do is you want to always have the batteries at approximately the same temperature when you measure the internal resistance. Otherwise, you'll throw off the results. You should know that when people talk about internal resistance, like manufacturers, the standard is to measure the internal resistance at a temperature of about 19 degrees Celsius. I couldn't guarantee you that everyone uses that standard, but that's sort of the standard room temperature, and that's what I would assume if somebody said my battery has a certain internal resistance. I would assume they were talking about 19 degrees Celsius or very, very close to that. So the other thing is the state of charge of the battery. An empty battery will have higher internal resistance. A full battery will have lower internal resistance. So the standard is to measure internal resistance at full charge. If you look at your batteries, if you have a charger that shows internal resistance while it is charging, at the beginning of the charge, you'll see ridiculously high numbers. And then as the battery fills up, the internal resistance will go down. Now, some chargers have a separate internal resistance function that will measure the internal resistance independent of charging the battery. And in that case, you would just complete a full charge, then you would measure the internal resistance. Good, done. Many chargers, though, only show internal resistance while they are charging, which is annoying because you have to catch the battery at the end of the charge cycle. Or you could take a fully charged battery and if you've charged the battery to 4.2 volts, tell the charger to charge it to 4.21 volts. And that way it'll do just a little bit of an additional charge cycle and show the resistance, okay? But then measure the internal resistance, controlling for temperature and at full charge, and then just start to build a mental, or even you could make notes and physically write it down, of what your battery's internal resistance is when they are brand new. And what I would do is I would write down the C rating, the internal resistance, and then as the and the milliamp hours. And then as the battery ages, you'll see that internal resistance go up. And when you have a battery that you're like, damn, this thing sucks, I can't fly this anymore, do that again and note its internal resistance, and you will sort of build a range for you. Okay. It is both a safety issue and a performance issue. It's a safety issue because when the internal resistance is too high, the battery will heat up during charging and could overheat and go into thermal overload. Okay. All right, good question, Cold Front and Penguin. Thank you for the super chat. Digital FPV, thanks for a €6 super chat. Just saying thanks for doing what you do. Thank you, Digital FPV. If by doing what you do, you mean talking about hot chicken in bathrooms, gas station bathrooms. Delta Kana wants to know, if I want to conformal coat my ESC but it has a heatsink, should I remove that? No, I wouldn't remove it. I would assume, because under the heatsink is going to be thermal paste. And if you really care, you're going to need to remove all the thermal paste. You're going to need to conformal. Then you're going to need to replace the thermal paste. I would hope that the heat sink and the thermal paste themselves were providing a little bit of waterproofing. I probably wouldn't do that. Pot Kas, thank you for 14, I believe, South African Rand. So there are a few currencies that I always get mixed up. Nope, South African Rand. Hallelujah. Thank you, Podcast, for 14 South African Rand. Joshua, really trying to join the X-Men. That's right. Now, I don't think I quite look as much like someone who's trying out for the X-Men in this coat as I did my other coat, but a little bit. Ooh, it's nice having a warm hood on, I'll tell you what. Thomas and Stella Galanu, thanks for €2. What's your estimated % of analog versus digital FPV? Thomas, based on some sales numbers that I have seen, which I don't feel at liberty to tell you where the sales numbers come from, what store they come from, and I don't feel at liberty to give you specifics. I feel like that would be the kind of thing that the store from which, well, it's not just one store, to be honest with you. I feel like I shouldn't reveal too many details because that would be rude. I would confidently say that more than half of people are buying at least some digital. And I don't have specifics on the breakdown, but I think that a lot of that is DJI. Walksnail certainly has gotten more popular, and I think they have grown quickly. And again, I couldn't estimate the percentages because I just don't have a basis to do that. But I feel like I could confidently say that more than half of people are flying at least some digital, if not exclusively digital. And analog pilots and people who still have 8-track players in their cars will be like, that's not true. Analog is still the king, baby. And I'm like, well, maybe that's true. And maybe that vinyl record you've got actually sounds better than a CD. But that is not the way that the market is going. You might be right. But that is not what people are buying. I'm confident that at least half of people getting into FPV or who are buying new FPV gear are buying digital. And a lot of it's given how expensive it is, that's kind of surprising. Potato, thank you for a $5 super chat. You should do a waterproofing series. I'm trying to do a long-range Cinecruiser, and I'm realizing I have to build it myself. So I did have a video about conformal coating. I did make a video about that. I didn't waterproof my drone. Now I'm paying the price, is the title. This is not a full how to waterproof everything tutorial, but I did discuss silicon conformal coating and how to use silicon conformal coating to waterproof. So you might want to check that out. Thank you, Riot9, for $420 Australian dollars. It said Riot9. Riot9. Riot. Oh, I mean, you can see why I would be confused. Riot. I had a friend. No. I had a friend. So, oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, so his name is Riot9, and apparently it's pronounced Riot9. But you could see my confusion. I had a friend once upon a time who became a DJ, and he decided he needed a DJ name, and his name was going to be... There you go. Now, how do you pronounce that? Well, it's a live stream. I can't hear you talking anyway, so it's going to be tough. But see, he wanted his name to be Insight. He wanted to be Insight, right? Like Insight, but with a psi, because he's a DJ, so he's doing psytrance. But we all thought it looked more like, and that's what we called him. until he eventually, I'm pretty sure he eventually changed his name. It's like, it's too clever. You're clever. You're too clever. You got to be less clever. So if you have a weirdly spelled name, don't be upset when people mispronounce it. You're not upset, but Peter M77, thanks for 50 Norwegian kroner. I get grainy image on O3 with auto camera settings. It's fine on manual. What are you changing about manual? So here's what I would do. Peter M, I can't directly solve this problem for you on screen, on live stream. What I would do is I would try to reproduce the grainy image by changing the manual settings. And that will tell you why what is the auto doing to make the image look bad? For example, is it turning the ISO up too high and that's making it grainy? And can you fix that by turning the ISO down in manual? Like, so if that was the problem, you could leave auto turned on, but set the max ISO to something lower. Yeah, that's how I would approach that problem. Change the manual settings to try to emulate the grainy image, and that will tell you which setting the auto algorithm is messing with to cause the problem. William Humphreys, great question. This is not a super chat, but it's a good question. I unscrewed the lens on my camera, and now I need to know how to get it back on focus. Here is the video that you want. Oh, look at that face. Oh, you can't see it. Oh, man, look at that handsome devil. Here's the video you want, William Humphreys. This video will show you how to focus your lens correctly. That was, so I didn't have a good microphone. So I used this face-worn microphone. I didn't have really any microphones around my studio. My office, whatever you want to call it. We've come a long way since then. Oh, I did have this looks like I did have a microphone over here at my desk, but not at the bench. This room has really filled out. It's come a long way since then. Something. I didn't have the blackout curtains here. I now have blackout curtains to help keep the light out. It was really affecting the color temperature of the room. I didn't have a beard. I've come a long way since then. Yeah, Drew really hated that microphone. He hated that microphone. I don't know why I didn't get a lavalier microphone. I don't know why I didn't get a lavalier microphone. I don't know what my deal was. Digital FPV, thanks for a $6 super chat. How would I identify during flight that throttle liberalization is too high? What is throttle liberalization? We're just going to search for throttle liberalization. I think we're having a translation error here. I have literally, I don't know what throttle liberalization is. So Linearization. Oh, that could be it. Throttle liberalization. Linearization. Thrust. You're talking about thrust linearization. Okay. So thrust linearization, the way to tell that it's too high is, one way to tell that it's too high is when you bounce off an obstacle, if the quad violently overreacts and the throttle surges, that means it's too high. When I have played with thrust linear in Betaflight, like I don't know if Ciati still uses it. I did a video where I looked at Ciati's build and Ciati's PID tune. And one of the things Ciati was doing at the time, he may still be, I'm not sure, was using thrust linear. And thrust linear helps account for nonlinearity in the thrust versus RPM output of a motor. At low RPM, a motor doesn't make very much thrust, and it needs to change RPM a lot to make more thrust. Whereas at high RPM, there is a more linear relationship between RPM and thrust. But at low RPM, the thrust sort of ramps up slowly. And so what thrust linear tends to do is make the motors more responsive at low throttle. Which means that if you're at low throttle and you smack an obstacle and the quad jumps off the obstacle, if thrust linear is too high, it will violently jump and the motors will surge. And that to me was a reason why I stopped using it. I didn't like that. Thank you, Matt Roach, for a $5 super chat. I'm moving from Betaflight 4.3 to 4.4. Can I bring over my tunes? I am told, Matt Roach. So first of all, the safe migrator is not 100% safe to go from 4.3 to 4.4. For example, the changes, you know how when you turn on bidirectional D-shot, it automatically sets up your notch filters? Those changes have changed between 4.3 and 4.4. So if you copy your 4.3 D-shot configuration over, it will skip that step. You need to go in the configurator and enable bidirectional D-shot so that it sets up your notch filters correctly. I'm told that the PID values are safe to carry over between 4.3 and 4.4. Okay? So if you have a particular PID tune that you like, the P, the I, the D, the feed forward, those values, I believe they're safe to carry forward. The Betaflight devs are working on a cloud-based configuration transfer utility. I don't know when it will be released, but eventually that is a problem that they hope to solve. Ooh, we got a ton of super chats. I gotta stay on these super chats. Ligma FPV, thank you for $5 super chat and the opportunity to say Ligma on stream. You look young and handsome today. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. 907 FPV, thanks for a $10 super chat. Can you run the Ghost Light module on the Tango 2? You cannot. You cannot because Tango 2 does not support Ghost protocol. Now, 907 FPV has heard that there is a secret code you can input with the joystick on the module. I think what you're thinking of is this. When Ghost was in development, how do you test the Ghost module with an OpenTX radio? Because OpenTX at the time did not support the Ghost protocol. And obviously, you aren't going to build a whole custom build of OpenTX that you can, I don't know, maybe they could have done it that way, but they didn't. Before the Ghost module released, it could talk Crossfire to the radio. We're not talking about over the air to the receiver. The Ghost module didn't bind to a Crossfire receiver, but the radio, in the same way that you use Crossfire to talk to an Express LRS module, the radio would talk Crossfire to the Ghost module. And that was how Ghost was developed. And then around the time of when the module released, of course, it would be a complete shitstorm if Immersion RC Ghost released a product that used the TBS Crossfire protocol. The entire world would have melted down. So, of course, they removed that functionality. And now it just talks Ghost. But that code is still in there. And there is a way to unlock it. I don't think it's a secret code that you enter with the joystick on the module. I'm not familiar with that. Once upon a time, there was a reason why I needed to do this, and Immersion RC was able to give me a special firmware to flash that unlocked that functionality. Just for me, just for testing purposes. If you had that ability, then the Ghost module could work with the Tango 2, because the Tango 2 outputs Crossfire to the external module bay. It doesn't output Ghost. However, I am confident there is 0% chance that Immersion RC will ever let that code get out into the wild because of what a gigantic shitstorm it would be with TBS if that happened. So, I think you're out of luck. That would be my take. FPV Swedrone, thank you for 10 Swedish kroner. Let's just double check. Swedrone's question is, I have the GEP-RC Mark V DJI HD. Can I have the sound added from the drone to the movies on the SD card? Yes, you can do that, but you just have to do it manually using a video editing program. It wouldn't be that hard because the files start and end at the same time. So you would just drop them on the timeline one after the other and then render them out. It probably would not be too difficult for someone to write an FFmpeg script. FFmpeg is a command line utility for encoding and manipulating video and audio files. Someone could probably write an FFmpeg script that would do that through the command line, but I couldn't tell you how to do that. I would just import them into my favorite video editor and then render them out. Greg Kukanich, thank you for a $10 super chat. For an 03 Bind and Fly, was deciding between the AOS 5 and the GEP-RC Mark V. Any thoughts either way? I think the AOS 5 is going to fly a little bit better, but be a little bit less durable. The GEP-RC Mark V is going to fly well, but probably not as well as the AOS 5. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's going to be a little heavier, but a little more durable. It's a tough call myself as to which one I would take. David Santioni, thank you for $5 Canadian. Did you get any negative feedback on the Radiomaster Boxer? No, I love the Boxer. I haven't flown my TX16S since I got the Boxer. I think it's safe to say it's my daily driver. Should I replace my TX16S now or wait for a V2 of the Boxer? I don't know. My philosophy is that you should almost never wait for the next revision of a piece of hardware that you want today. Because it's hard to predict when that will come and how long you'll be waiting. If it's a situation like we're pretty sure that in like 2 months or less, DJI is going to release the new goggles too. The leaks are coming. Like if it's legit about to happen, maybe you want to wait a month or two. But like they haven't even leaked or discussed the existence of a Boxer V2. So like when's the Boxer V2 going to come? I don't know. I don't know why they would, if the Boxer is successful, I don't know why they would rush to release the V2. They're going to want to milk the Boxer as long as they can, I would think. So I don't think you need to rush to replace the TX16S. I like the Boxer. I don't know if I would have spent 150 something, 110, whatever it's going for, dollars to get the Boxer over the TX16S if I already had a TX16S that I liked. But I do like the Boxer. I just think the downside of the Boxer is the smaller screen. The upside of the Boxer is it is more compact. It feels very good in my hand. It fits nicely in the bag. It just has a solid, compact feel that really appeals to me. And frankly, this new touchscreen interface that they've done on the TX16S in Edge TX, I kind of like feels like I'm using an old touchscreen device from like the 1990s or early 2000s. Like I don't want to disrespect the work that obviously went into redesigning the UI, but like as a touchscreen UI, it feels very I don't know if primitive is the right word. It's like okay, I've got these buttons and the buttons go into the menus, but it's not like it doesn't seem it seems kind of clunky. And I kind of just miss the old scrolly UI. And so on some level, I'm kind of glad that the Boxer doesn't have a touchscreen because it gives me the old scrolly line-based UI. Like if the TX60, it's like, have you seen that video? And they ask this old English lady, I think she's English, maybe she's Welsh, I'm not sure. I'm just trying to guess from her accent. I think they ask her, would you rather have a radish or have sex? And she says, well, if it was good sex, I'd take the sex, but otherwise I'd have the radish. And I feel that way about the TX16S's touchscreen interface. If it was a good touchscreen interface, I would take it. But it's kind of clunky and just kind of looks like somebody... It looks like a programmer... Okay, here's what I'm going to say. It looks like a programmer designed it instead of a UX expert. And a programmer was just like, we have menus. Take menus. Put in submenu. Give button for submenu. Ah, I made interface. And I'm like, that's not how you design a UX. So. I have no negative feedback for the Radiomaster Boxer. I have no complaints about it whatsoever. The only complaint I have about it is that the JR Bay on the Boxer is like a 0.5 millimeter smaller than the JR Bay on every other radio. And the only module that it affects is the Ghost module. The Ghost module squeezes in extremely tightly. You have to really cram it in. And then when you try and take it out, it practically breaks the module. Only the Ghost module has this problem, but other radios don't have any problem with any of the modules. So I think Radiomaster made the module on the JR Bay on the Boxer just a smidge too small, and it affects Ghost specifically. So that's my only complaint. Other than that, I love it. We got some more Super Chats. Let's see, 1:45 p.m. Now we're 15 minutes behind on the Super Chats. Let me take up a couple more questions from the Discord and from the regular chat, and then we'll pick up Super Chats again. We got a question from the Discord asking, I have the SpeedyBee F7. Can I record flight data? Yes, the SpeedyBee F7 has an onboard data flash chip and can record flight data. Mupshot has a sim question. I have totally failed at installing Velocidrone and getting started. Controller is configured and responsive, but I can't open any maps or start a single player session. Anything special I need to do to get it started? Mupshot, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. I would have to refer you to the Velocidrone Discord. I wonder if something about the way you extracted or installed the program has screwed up the install, where the executable is running but it can't load the resources. Velocidrone has a little bit of a weird install process. Like, you should just download the installer and run the installer, but if you somehow mucked with the install, moving it to a different drive or something, it may not be happy with you. But I honestly don't know, and I think I would have to refer you to the Discord, the Velocidrone Discord. Knock Knock says, I feel like a new man after joining your Patreon yesterday while I was building the JB DIY HDV2 kit and the JB Analog kit, now making it to a Q&A live stream. Whole lot of JB in my life lately. Well, that's very flattering. Thank you. If you guys are not members of my Patreon, if you guys didn't know, if you want to get on the Discord server, you can join my Patreon at this URL for as little as $2 a month, or more if you feel like I've earned it. That's what I like to say. You just decide what you think I'm worth. If I was on a street corner giving advice about quadcopters, instead of playing a guitar or a drum or something, doing acrobatics, if you were headed to work and you walked by me on a street corner and I was answering questions about quadcopters, how much would you throw in my hat? That's the question. That's how you make this decision. Oh wow. The high tiers are all sold out. That's really something. That's impressive. Mostly I hope that you just feel good about supporting my content. You're like, okay, I got a bunch of podcasts that I listen to. I've been listening to a ton of Opening Arguments lately, which is a legal podcast. And what I do is I just binge listen the podcast for like 3 months. And then at some point I'm like, you know what? I should probably join their frickin' Patreon, for God's sake. So like, I get it. If you've been binge watching my content for like 3 months, maybe today's the day. Just join up to Patreon. Say like, okay, fine. I'll give you some money. That's how I do it. It's the face I make while I'm like, oh, fine. I'll give you some money. I'll join your Patreon. I guess you've earned it. Anyway, that's how you get onto the Discord, among other things, among other nice things. Let's see here. Papa Midnight says, I picked up a Turnigy Evo for a friend who's learning to fly. Is it capable of running Edge TX? That's a good question. I don't know the answer, but let's see. Is it the Turnigy Evolution, the original one? I don't think that runs OpenTX, so I doubt that it runs EdgeTX. No. That's a FlySky radio. I don't think that runs OpenTX, so I doubt that it runs EdgeTX. Can it run OpenTX? Has somebody ported it? Oh, someone has ported it. I posted about it once upon a time on Facebook. In 2017, Jesus. So I guess in theory someone ported OpenTX. Maybe they could run EdgeTX, but I wouldn't count on it. I think the answer is probably no. The answer might be yes with some real hassle. Asher's Workshop says, I have a Rotor Riot Skyliner HD. I updated the firmware, and now my air unit doesn't communicate to the flight controller via S-Bus. Maybe I did the wrong firmware. Asher's Workshop, I assume when you say you have a Skyliner HD, is it an actual Rotor Riot bind-to-fly build, or did you build it yourself? I'll wait for the answer. If you build it yourself, then you just have to, I don't know what flight controller you have, but you have to find the correct target for your flight controller. I hope that you saved a config dump before you flashed the flight controller. If you guys don't know this, listen, as soon as you get a new flight controller, literally, when the flight controller it's just fresh out of the box, okay? Before you touch it with a soldering iron, what you should do, and I don't do this every time, but I should, and you definitely should, because if I blow up a $90 flight controller, I go, F. And then I buy another one, and I'm like, I guess I just wasted my own money, but at least it's my business. And I can kind of like be like, oh, it's a business expense. My stupidity cost me money. It's not like I didn't just blow up $90. Right, I did. But when you blow up $90 of your company's money, you can pretend like it's not real. Okay? If you blow up $90 of your money, you have to justify it to your wife. And that's a different, see, that's the point. When my company wastes $90 because I blew up a flight controller, I don't have to justify that to my wife. I was like, hey, look, honey, the mortgage is still paid, right? Okay, fine, we're good, right? Okay, no, it's not like that, but it's fun to pretend that it's like that. So when you very first get a flight controller, plug it into USB. And start Betaflight Configurator, okay? And check that it works. Because sometimes they're DOA. And if they're DOA and you have soldered on it, you're going to have to convince the store that you didn't kill it. But if it's DOA and it has clearly never been touched, it came straight out of the box, and you call the store and you're like, this flight controller doesn't boot up, then they're probably going to hopefully take care of you. So then the next thing you do is you connect to Betaflight. You go to the presets tab. and you do save backup. And that will save a backup of the blank configuration of the flight controller. Now, why would you want to save a blank configuration? Like, wouldn't you want to do that after you finish configuring it? Yes. After you build the quadcopter, after you build the quadcopter, immediately after the first test hover, when you know it's working right and everything is correct, do it again. Do another backup. And what that's going to give you is key information like the target name. Where is the target name? Are you joking? Okay, there we go. Mamba F722 I2C. Okay? When you go to flash it again, you will know the correct target name, for example. Okay. So, it's interesting. If you do a cloud build, does it not have a... That's interesting. Okay, so hopefully... And then, when you go to flash your flight controller... Whoops, wrong window. When you go to flash your flight controller, before you flash it, do a backup. Just get in that habit so that you're not on a live stream saying, I flashed my flight controller and now I have no idea what my configuration is. So what we got to do is we got to identify your target and flash your target. If it is a Rotor Riot bind and fly that they made, just reach out to them. They'll get you sorted out. Backup is equivalent to diff all if you want to do it manually, Jason Aviator. Crazy Pilot asks, do you get the podcast if you sub to the Patreon at the $2 level? What platform is the podcast on? Crazy Pilot, you do get the podcast. Almost all of my Patreon levels have the exact same rewards. Number one, because I just don't want to, like, oh, if you for $5 you get a sticker, and for $20 you get a t-shirt, and for $50 I just don't want to, I just can't be bothered. So I'm just like, everybody gets everything. But also, I prefer that you join my Patreon because my philosophy is that I will give away 100% of my content on YouTube for free to everyone. I will not hold anything back just for the patrons. And then, hopefully, enough of you are like, yes, fine, you got me. I'll pay. I'll join up. Fine. I mean, maybe you're actually happy about it, but I always imagine you being like, I'm overcoming some resistance. Everyone at any level gets access to the podcasts. Doesn't matter whether you're at the $2 or the $5 or $10 level. The thing is, I don't want you to be like, I subscribed at the $10 level and you'd better make it worth it, Bardwell. I want you to be, yeah, okay, that's about right. $10. Yeah, no problem. I already want you to have gotten everything you want at the time that you subscribe. I don't want you to subscribe because you want something extra, which objectively means I'm making less money than I could. Because if you have rewards, then more people will subscribe. But F it, it's not how I want to operate. But I do. The Patreon, the podcasts are only available to patrons because I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold like this tiny thing back. You can still watch the live streams on YouTube, but if you want to listen to them as a podcast, you got to sign up. And the Discord server is the other thing I hold back. So the platform is Patreon. Patreon does its own podcast feed. So you can add that to your podcast reader as an RSS feed. Now, some podcast platforms don't have an RSS feed option. Like Spotify, for example, doesn't let you add a custom RSS feed as far as I know. Many podcast readers do. You can do it through the Patreon app itself, or you can use your own standalone podcast player if it takes custom RSS feeds. So that's how you do it. Huff19 says, am I wasting time saving dump all and diff all? Maybe not. In theory, dump all is in theory, you can always reproduce a dump all, by flashing the flight controller and then loading the diff. That should always be identical to dump all. Dump includes the entire config dump, even things you haven't changed, which in theory, you could reproduce that by flashing it. That brings it back to defaults, and then you load your diff. Still, sometimes dump all, you don't want to go through that process, and so you might want to look in a dump and see what a default value was. Joe West wants to know, when configuring the prop direction of a reversed Cinewhoop, what direction should the prop spin? Joe, by reversed, I assume you mean the motors are flipped upside down in a pusher configuration. I think that's probably what you mean. In a pusher configuration, the thing to keep in mind is that when you... Hang on. Where's the Cinewhoop? Here's one. Here's a pusher Cinewhoop. The thing to keep in mind is that when you look at the quadcopter from the top down, the flight controller does not care whether the motors are face up or face down. The flight controller cares what direction the prop is pushing. So, these props are installed exactly the same as if the motors were face up. The bottom of the prop is facing down towards my face. The top of the prop is facing the camera. And what that means is that if you were looking at the motors right side up, the prop is on upside down. But it doesn't matter what direction the motor is facing. It matters what direction the prop is pushing. So, the prop direction that it spins, this would be props out. Right? That's props out, because looking down at the center line, the prop is spinning outwards. It doesn't matter whether the motor is in a pusher or, I guess, a puller configuration. The orientation and direction of the prop is the same. Now, what that means is that you need the motor to spin the opposite direction. Because when you flip the motor over, the clockwise, counterclockwise direction is reversed. But don't think of it that way. Just look at the direction the prop is spinning and look at it from the top down and make sure the prop is spinning the right way. All right, headed back to the Super Chats now. Mike Bundy, thank you for a $20 Super Chat. Mike, very generous. Thank you, sir. VBAT or 5-volt, 9-volt Beck pad? 02, 03... Walksnail HD0. So not 5 volts. None of those video transmitters will run on 5 volts. I guess the Walksnail 1S VTX would run on 5 volts. So if you have the Walksnail 1S VTX, use 5 volts. Don't use VBAT. Unless it's a 1S quad, in which case use VBAT. Are you with me? If you have the Walksnail 1S VTX or the HD0 Whoop VTX, those guys, I would run them off of 1S VBAT, not a regulator. Because those guys are designed to run, I think, between 3.3 and 5 volts. And I would not want to risk the 5-volt regulator overvolting them by being... Some 5-volt regulators are actually at 5.1 volts. Like, they're just, like, close enough. Who cares? And that's because most 5-volt appliances will take at least 5.5, maybe 6 volts with no problem. But those VTXs, no. They can't. They really need to be at 5 volts. So, other than those 1S VTXs, I would run off a 9-volt Beck because it's going to give you cleaner power. Horizon 4, the Boxer battery bay is very spacious. I'm 100% sure the 21700 Radiomaster lithium ion will fit in it. I mean, I haven't checked it, but I'm pretty confident. Jason Corville, thank you for a $10 super chat. Thanks, Joshua, for your help making a decision on buying new gear. Much appreciated. Rodney Edwards, thanks for a £5 super chat. Any suggestions on motors for a 6-inch build? Yes. 25 millimeter motors are just about perfect for a 6-inch build. So the FPV Cycle 25 millimeter motors, the iFlight 2506, I think it is a good one. Those motors in that size class are really perfect for a 6-inch. A 2407 motor would be okay. I'm not sure the volume of a 2407 compared to like a 2506. It may be more, maybe a bigger volume. That would be 7 pi r squared, 7 squared, 2407. No, I'm sorry. See, I'm screwing it up already. 12 pi r squared. 12 squared times 7 times 3.14. A 2407 motor is 3,100 cubic millimeters. What about a 2506? That would be 12.5 squared times 6 times 3.14. Nope, a 2407 is a bigger motor than a 2506. Interesting. So a 2407 would be great. A 2506 would be great. That rough size is just about perfect for 6-inch. You can use a 2207 or a 2306, that just won't be quite as responsive. Riot9, thanks for $6.69 Australian. Thanks for getting me into this wonderful hobby and all you do. Didn't know I needed a 3D printer, but here we are. Oh, you need a 3D printer. You're not wrong about that. Koogman, thank you for a $5 super chat. I've pre-ordered the HC0 goggles. I wonder if they share the same antenna setup as the VRX4. They do. Yes, they do. But you might need a different adapter to get the antennas to face forward. But you will be able to reuse your antennas. The connectors are the same. JZEFPV, thanks for $7 Canadian. Any insight on whether DJI could or would implement a lower latency 720p mode in the goggles too, like Walksnail's 720 versus 1080? DJI has that. DJI has the low latency 120 FPS mode and the high quality 60 FPS mode. This is exactly analogous to Walksnail's 100 FPS versus 60 FPS. They're exactly analogous. DJI already has a low latency mode. Now, 720 versus 1080, DJI doesn't give you changeable resolution. It just changes the latency and the image quality. Only with the O3 air unit does DJI allow you to change resolution. Paul Stevenson III, thank you for a $5 super chat. Waiting on Boxer to replace the bad battery experience of the Zorro. Can you turn off express alerts so the battery burn and fan don't come on while in sim? Yeah, absolutely, Paul Stevenson. Go into the model setup menu. Well, what I would do is this, Paul. Make a new model, name it joystick or sim or something like that. In that model, go into the model setup menu and turn off the internal module. Boom. Now the internal module is not running and everything is fine. This is something that the TBS Tango and the Mambo are very smart about. When you plug in and you go into joystick mode, they have the option to automatically disable the internal module, which is smart. But you can do it manually in those other radios. Ethan W., is there another way other than plugging in the Walksnail 1S VTX to update it? I tried to plug it in and it bent off. Not that I know of. I'm sorry to say, you are boned. If you can somehow solder like a USB header onto those pads, maybe. You got to be super careful when plugging in those things because those connectors will break off. Death Knight, thank you for a $2 super chat. Read my previous message about Radio Master. Death Knight, we're about 20 minutes behind on the super chat, so I probably just haven't gotten to your message yet. Abraham wants to know, could they do fixed latency? Yes, but no, Aber. People ask, could DJI just snap their fingers and use their magical engineering technology to make a fixed latency mode? Well, why does DJI not have fixed latency? Because they retransmit packets. What would DJI look like with fixed latency? It would look like audience mode. Now, I don't mean audience mode with the O3 air unit where the goggles rebroadcast the signal. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about audience mode with the V2, the Vista, and the V2 goggles. Audience mode with the Vista is basically the goggles tune into the broadcast, but there are no retransmissions for you. For the actual pilot, there are retransmissions, and that's why audience mode looks so crappy compared to not audience mode. But if you think about it, audience mode with the Vista is a broadcast-based, no retransmission, fixed latency link. And it looks like garbage. It looks terrible. The range and penetration are awful. So, could DJI do fixed latency? Yes. They could just let you be in audience mode. Would they do that? Well, if they were going to do that, the fact that they haven't done it in over 4 years suggests that they won't do it. And in fact, they changed the way that audience mode works in the O3 system. In the O3 system, the pilot's goggles rebroadcast the signal to the audience, which means that the audience sees the same thing that the pilot is seeing. So DJI was like, man, this audience mode looks crappy. Let's just do it differently. So I think that DJI doesn't want you to have a crappy looking audience mode. They're not willing to sacrifice the quality of their product in order to give you fixed latency. Now, Iric points out that Walksnail is supposed to be working on a fixed latency mode. Yep, I heard about that. Way back when they first released, they said this is something we're going to work on. And it was very exciting. Now, it's months later and we haven't seen it. And we're starting to wonder if that was just vaporware. I am starting to wonder. Because fundamentally, the way that their transmission protocol works relies on the ability to retransmit. And I bet it's hard to get good performance without retransmitting. Ethan W. asks, if I'm running different firmware on my Walksnail VTX and RX, will the latency increase? Hard to say, Ethan. It's impossible to predict the differences in the firmwares. There are sometimes the differences may be trivial and irrelevant. Sometimes they may be important. I don't know. It's impossible to generalize that. Zen Shuet, thank you for a €10 super chat. Hello again, just finished my Skylight build, although I'm still waiting on the motors. My question is, what would be the best battery weight and milliamp hours to run on the Skylight? 850 to 1000 milliamp hour 4S. If you are not running a GoPro, maybe as much as a 1300, although in my opinion, it flies poorly at that weight. I wouldn't go smaller than 850 because your flight time will be terrible. That's what I would say. Sohail Sen, thank you for 899, I think, rupees. JB, I want to upgrade my radio transmitter, the Taranis QX7. I mostly have whoops and 3-inch quads with FreeSky receivers. So should I buy the Radiomaster TX16S 4-in-1 and later add the Express LRS module? Yes, 100%. If you have a lot of quads with FreeSky receivers in them and you don't plan to just switch them all to Express LRS, which, I mean, I don't blame you. That sounds like a pain in the ass. The absolute right thing to do is to buy the 4-in-1 and then slowly move your system over to Express LRS as you can with an Express LRS module. Thank you, Alpha Yankee, for a $10 super chat. I can't be bothered to sign up for Patreon, but I do binge your videos. Thank you so much for the donation, and very much appreciated. Death Knight, thank you for a $1 super chat. Death Knight, Death King Knight, Death King Knight. You're really leaning into that, aren't you, Death King Knight? What should my name be? I need an FPV name. I know, Death. Ooh, that's good. Death Knight. The knights weren't at the top of the hierarchy. Who was at the top of the hierarchy? The king was at the top of the hierarchy. How about Death King? Yeah, but like I think of a king, and I just think of a king like some fat guy sitting on a throne. That's not really what I'm going for. Knights were like, they were out there. They were on horses. Death Knight King? Death King Knight. Ooh, that's good. Death King Knight. That's what I'm going with. Okay, got it. Death King Knight, thanks for $1. Death King Knight, thanks for $2. Read my previous message, please, about Radio Master. Death King Knight, thank you for $10 super chat. Gee, check. I'm like that Vince McMahon meme. Death King Knight. Did you check the new Radio Master Express LRS Big Boy works with something like ground remotes? Can they work with trainer output like a Crossfire can? Maybe it's possible to use something like PPM to S-Bus. No, I don't think so. Radio Master Ranger. I don't think the Ranger has a PPM input like the Crossfire module does. Let's just check. Ooh, that's a good picture. Damn. Where's the modules? No, I don't want receivers. Hello? Accessories? There we go. So, like, if we look here, it basically only has a serial input. It's a 4-pin serial input. I don't have any indication that the Ranger module can work with a PPM input or PWM input. The big Crossfire module can do it. And so it can work with pretty much any radio via the buddy box connection. I mean, the latency is terrible. Like, it's theoretically possible that there's a firmware that will read a PPM input on one of these pins. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that that was a thing that someone had done. I don't know that for a fact. I don't see any indication that that is like an officially supported feature, though. So you would need something that converts. So what you could do is you could use a Crossfire module to take in the Crossfire signal and output a PPM signal. I think the Crossfire full-size module can do that. And then you would feed... No, the other way. It would take in a PPM signal and output a... Yeah, this is it. So what you could do is, listen carefully. You take your ground-based radio. It outputs a PPM signal via the buddy box. You feed that into a Crossfire module. You bind that Crossfire module to a Crossfire receiver, and you wire that Crossfire receiver to your Radio Master Ranger module, which takes the Crossfire input and converts it to Express LRS. That's stupid. Don't do that, but it would work. It would work, but it would be stupid. You should just use Crossfire at that point. Okay. All right, Death King Knight, we got you. We got your question. Can I migrate my model from the TX16S to the Boxer, asks Willie. No, Willie, there is currently no way that I consider reasonable to move a model from the TX16S to the Boxer. The Boxer is not supported in Edge TX Companion. At least it wasn't. I think it still isn't. No, I don't want to download it. I want to go to the repo. Damn it. It's 280. No, so it's not. EdgeTX Companion 280 does not include the Boxer. So there is normally, if you want to convert your models from one radio to another, you save them in Companion, you switch profiles, and you load them in a new profile, and EdgeTX Companion says, oh, I see that this is a different type of radio. Would you like me to convert it for you? Let me demonstrate. So here's EdgeTX Companion. Any minute now. There it is. And if we go to settings, here's the radio profile that I was trying to make my Boxer work It doesn't work though. So if we go to radio profiles, you can see here I've got a profile for my TX16S and a profile that doesn't work for the Boxer, which I'm going to delete because it didn't work. But what I can do is I can do settings, radio profiles, add radio profile. I'm going to make a new radio and I'm going to call it a, let me zoom in here so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to add a new radio and I'm going to tell Companion that it is a Radio Master Zorro. Okay? All right, fine. Now, I'm going to open settings, radio profiles. Here I am in my TX16S profile, and I'm going to open a save of my TX16S models and settings. Okay? Oh, interesting. See, it's already saying, look what it says. Oh, you guys can't see it. Hold on. It says, the radio type that you have currently selected, TX16S, is not compatible with this file, which was saved from a jumper TX16. Do you want to convert the file? Yes. Boom. It converts the file. Everything is fine. And in fact, if I switch models, like to go from a jumper T16 to a TX16S is trivial, right? Because they have the same switch layout and everything. But if I were to switch profiles to the Zorro, again, it says, hey, do you want to convert this over to a Zorro? Okay. And now, because the Zorro does not have the same switch layout as the TX16S, I get this dialog box that lets me convert them. And it's saying, look, switch SD minus doesn't exist on the Zorro. What do you want to change it to? Will it let me change it? No, it won't let me change it. But it's telling me that this is invalid. Okay? Now, this is the process for changing. I wish it would let me change it. I guess I just got to go in and manually fix that, but okay. That's the process for switching your models from one radio to another. Since the Boxer is not supported by EdgeTX Companion, there is no way to bring those models in. If you try to copy the models over, it'll just say invalid radio data and reset the radio. You have to start from scratch. At some point in the future, presumably the Boxer will be supported in EdgeTX Companion. I guess this would be another major downside of the Boxer, is the lack of companion support. Now, personally, I still use it as my daily. I just set my models up from scratch. It was not a big deal. I just bit the bullet and was like, okay, I'm going to set them up from scratch. Okay, continuing. Joachim Sogiakis, thank you for €5. Any advice for people with a bricked Express LRS RC? You need to use a LiPo power pad. Also, you need to connect first the flight controller by USB, then the LiPo. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. What I recommend, and I hesitate to do this, not HTX. What I recommend is, damn it. Come on. There we go. Beta FPV sells an Express LRS recovery dongle. I hesitate to recommend this because Beta FPV hardware is sometimes a coin toss as to whether it's going to be a problem or be wonderful, but it's probably worth $8. Now, if you have an FTDI adapter at home, you could just use that. But if you don't have an FTDI adapter, this is pretty easy to use. It comes with this little adapter here to easily let you attach to the Express LRS receiver without having to solder to it. This is the simplest way to recover an Express LRS receiver that's bricked. Okay? If you don't already have an FTDI adapter, or frankly, I've considered buying this damn thing just for this little plug here, because having to solder and clip to the receiver is a bit of a pain in the ass. So there you go. That's what I would use. It's probably not it's not even an FTDI adapter. It's a CP210. So I don't know if that's the same as FTDI. I think it isn't, but I'm not sure. They're different drivers, at least. You can also just buy an FTDI module and use that, but this is a pretty convenient little thingy. So yeah. And they have a tutorial for how to use it. So you can recover it with Betaflight pass-through, but the timing of when you power it up can be annoying. If it's soldered to a flight controller, you can try to do it via pass-through. Many people find it not to work that way. Yes, this is the same thing. So this is an FTDI adapter, not a CP210 adapter. They are both USB to serial adapters, but I think they use a different chip. And they definitely use different drivers, but they accomplish the same thing. This one has a couple of extra pins on it that you're not going to use. So it could be a little bit more confusing to get it working. But I have one of these, and I have used it to flash an Express LRS receiver that I bricked. This is a little bit more versatile, but also a little bit less straightforward to use. And the Express LRS recovery dongle is specifically made for flashing Express LRS receivers, so that's what all the tutorials are going to be pointed towards, and that's why I would suggest this for a beginner. It happened to me, so I'm just pointing it out so people can know what to do. The first time I flashed, I bricked it. That's bad luck. That sucks. John Boyle, thanks for €2. There's no question attached to John's. Let's see here if John has a question. Does BlueJay work on SpeedyBee F4 V3? I heard that it stalls. I don't know about that, John. I can't say for sure. I haven't. I used the SpeedyBee F7, but not the F4, so I can't say that I flashed it. I can't answer that question, John. Sorry. I think you're referring to the BLE S ESC that comes with it. That's what he means, is the ESC. Tom Zaboro, what do you mean by switch OSD profiles? Can you elaborate, Tom? I'd like to answer your question. Death. Oh, no, we got Death King Knight. We got him. Uranium, thank you for a $5 super chat. Is the SpeedyBee F7 stack worth the $50 more than the F4? Do you even notice the difference? Probably not, Uranium. The SpeedyBee F7 is going to give you 2 more usable UARTs, because the F4 is going to have a dedicated S-Bus pad and a dedicated telemetry pad for FreeSky telemetry and S-Bus. If you are using FreeSky receivers, that's great. If you are not using FreeSky receivers, those pads are completely wasted and you lose the UART. Unless they've broken the UART out separately. I don't think that they have. Let's double check. So on the, no. What do we, not the AIO. Not the AIO. Shut up. F7, F405, V3. That's the one I want. Come on. Give me a pinout. Give me a pinout. What do I have to do to get a pinout? Thank you. So we can see here we've got S-Bus telemetry. What UART are those? That's the question we need to answer. 4 UARTs. Are there really? Hang on. Let's find where they show how to wire up a FreeSky flight controller. I know they have that. Almost there. Here we go. S-Bus receiver. S-Bus goes to... Oh, that's lame. The DJI, they don't have a DJI plug. Surely they do. But what UART is the S-Bus receiver on? That's the question. What UART is it? You guys are killing me. How do we find this information? SBus, smart port. Use any TX pad for the smart port feature? I don't believe you. Where's SBus? Where's receiver? No. Oh, should we look at the manual? Maybe it'll tell us there. No, this is just the same shit. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Hold on. Okay. I have one. Such nonsense. All I want to know is what UART number is the SBus pad. That's all apparently, I cannot know that information without owning the flight controller. Fine. I will plug it in and go to the ports tab. Okay, thank you. F you. F you. Okay, good. There are 6 UARTs. That's what I needed to know. So then we've got T2R2, that's 1 UART. T3R3, that's 2. T6R6, that's 3. T1R1, that's 4. And then the telemetry and the SBus must be the 5th and the 6th UART. So we will have 4 dedicated UARTs plus 2 UARTs that are only usable. Wait, no, telemetry is for the ESC. That's not right. What about the plug? Damn it. This should not be this difficult. What about the ESC plug? There's going to be a... Okay. So that's UART 5. Fine. What is the second telemetry plug? What UART is that? They've got a second motor output for a second 4-in-1 ESC if you have an octo. What is this telemetry plug? What UART number is that? It is impossible for me to know. No one can know the answer to this question. It is not documented effing anywhere. It's not documented anywhere. So annoying. So annoying. Like this is... Nope. Just not going to tell me. All right, well, I guess I'll just stop. Oh, wait a minute. Almost. You're at 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, you're at 4 is for Bluetooth connection. Okay, so that's the same between the F405 and the F7, though. You are at 5 is for ESC telemetry. Okay, what about the second ESC telemetry? Is that also... Oh, that's also UART 5. That's right. ESC telemetry is all on the same UART. That is also UART 5. Okay. But then where is the SBus pad? That's got to be on UART 2. They just must have UART 2. Okay, cool. This is such thrilling content. Is it worth $50 more to buy the F7? The thing about the F7 is you don't have this bullshit with trying to wonder which UART is where. All of the UARTs are just interchangeable. Probably isn't worth $50 for most people. I don't think you will notice much performance difference between them. Okay. SBus is on UART 2. Yeah. So that's smart. What they've done is Some flight controllers will say S-Bus is on UART2, and if you're not using S-Bus, F you don't get UART2 at all. What SpeedyBee have done is they have given you full access to UART2, TX, and RX, and the S-Bus pad is also on UART2, which is nice. Tom Zaboral, you can change OSD profiles using the in-flight adjustments tab. Tom, I want you to look at this video. This video, Betaflight 4.1 rate profile with jumper T16 6-position switch. This video shows you how to switch rate profiles. It is the exact same process for switching OSD profiles. Okay? That's how to do that, Tom. Apple Arts, thanks for a €5 super chat. Did you hear about the blackout problem with the O3 air unit in the iFlight drones? Do you know how to fix it? What do you think the blackout problem is with the O3 air unit? What do you think the problem is? I have heard, I think you're talking about that original Dobo video where he fail-safed and crashed his quad in the water. And some people have claimed that there was a problem with his voltage regulator that caused his video to drop out. I'm not sure that that has been verified and agreed to be a problem that affects people. I'm not aware of any widespread blackout problem with the O3 air unit with the iFlight quads. If there is more information that I'm missing, hopefully the Discord will let me know. But I would have to say, to answer your question, I have not heard about a blackout problem with the O3 air unit in iFlight quads. The iFlight voltage regulator is vastly oversized for running the O3 air unit. Unless there is a manufacturing defect, which I don't think there is, they should be fine. 3D printing and FPV, thanks for €2. Audience mode on DJI Cadix with Goggles 2 and audience on Goggles V2. Is it possible? Yes, is the short answer. The Goggles 2 can audience mode. Sorry, wait, which way? Which VTX are you using? Cadix Vista? If the Cadix Vista is bound to the Goggles 2, I think the answer is yes, it works both ways. To really answer the question, we would need to know the Cadix Vista and which goggle it was bound to, and then who was the spectator. But I'm pretty sure it works both ways. John Boyle. Well, I got your question, John, about the SpeedyBee F3. F4. I heard it stalls, Blue Jay. I haven't checked that. Dayron USA, thanks for a $5 super chat. To recover a USB port not recognized anymore, how can I recover a USB port not recognized? Quad flies fine. Other flight controllers still connect to the PC. Pretty sure I connected the wrong UART. Dayron, what I would do is I would hold down the bootloader button, plug in USB. That'll put it into DFU mode, and then reflash it with the correct target. That will restore it to defaults. And at that point, you should be able to connect again. Peter Schmidt, thanks for 10 Polish zloty. Send a photo on Discord. Need help with motor choice. Well, let's see, Peter. How far back do I have to go, Peter? Peter, can you repost your question? Maidenus 05 says, no matter what I do, I have terrible range with my DJI system. Multiple drones, all with Cadix Vista, before and after the WTF hack, 800, 1200 milliwatts, different antennas, nothing changes. I've gotten at best maybe 300 yards, 300 meters before losing video. I typically get decent range only on one channel. The other two are extremely poor. If you have problems with range on one channel, that suggests it's interference. Are you flying all at the same location? And can you try at different locations? Peter Schmidt needs help with a motor to choose for his remote-controlled camera dolly. I want to power it via belt pulley to one of the wheels. Peter, for a camera dolly, wouldn't you want a stepper motor and not like a brushless motor, like a regular brushless motor, like a non-stepper motor? I think that for a camera dolly, you would want position-based control, right? So that you could say, I'm moving the dolly to the middle position. I'm moving the dolly to the end. So, Peter, I would be looking for stepper motors and a stepper motor controller. And like, what size motor would you need? I don't know. I don't think this would be good for, if you were going to go with a regular brushless motor, you would absolutely want a sensored motor, because a sensorless motor will not have good torque at low RPM and will not be able to start smoothly without jerking. You would want a sensored motor like you would use for an RC car. So. It really feels to me, Peter, like you would want a stepper motor, though. Like, I know you know what you need, but like, if I had a camera dolly, I would want to be able to program a set of moves, right? Like, let's say I want to do a move from left to right at a certain speed, okay? Well, I would want to have it automatically go all the way to the left and then to the right. Let's say I want to go from right to left to 75% and then back to the left again at a different speed. I don't know. I'm just making things up. I would think you would want to be able to program positions, and for that, you would absolutely need a stepper motor. A brushless motor simply turns at a certain speed, but without an external sensor. Like, you could implement a system where you used an infrared distance sensor or a sonar distance sensor or a laser distance sensor and a brushless motor to then move to given positions. But a stepper motor would accomplish the same thing with much less complexity. Sean England, thanks for a $5 super chat. In Betaflight Configurator 10.9, JBF7V2, where did the user 1 switch go? It was set up with a VTX power switch. I don't know. The user 1 should be set up in the 4.4 target. I haven't checked that. Do I have a JBF7V2 handy to test? I don't know that I do. Is this a V2 or a V1? This looks like a V2. It is a V2. Okay. Here's a V2 that I used for my servo testing experiment. I'm going to have to download Configurator 10.9 first. No time like the present. No, I don't want portable. Cancel. Installer. While we're doing that, let's finish up with Teddy Toon's question. Teddy Toon, thank you for a $10 super chat. Can you check this parts list and see if I'm making any mistakes? Check your Discord DMs. Alrighty, Teddy. What do you got? Quad part picker. Parts list. Unify Pro is a good video transmitter. Unify Pro 5G8. Is that the high volt or is that the 5 volt one? I think this is the 5 volt one. I believe this is the 5. I think it's it doesn't say HV. So, I mean, unless you absolutely need Oh, 13 volt max. Okay, that's cute. No, this is a 5 volt video transmitter. Unless you absolutely need that, I would get the HV. It's going to be a little bit bigger, but it's going to be almost twice the output power and be easier to power. You don't have to worry about your 5 volt regulator. So, Teddy, I would consider the Unify Pro 32 HV if your build will allow you to fit it. You see, it's bigger, it's a little more expensive, but it has much higher output power. So I would think about that. Nothing wrong with that one, but I would, the 5 volt regulator on some flight controllers is a little bit underwhelming, let's say. And may not like that, may not be able to handle that video transmitter. Hold on. Now, for some reason, every time I go to my downloads, Chrome just barfs for a while. So, fine. I'll just manually go there in Explorer. And we're going to run Betaflight Configurator. Chrome, are you alive again? There you are. All right. Continuing to look at Teddy's parts list while Betaflight Configurator installs. Tattoo R-Line 1400. That's a good battery. For a 5-inch build, I think 1400 is about as big as I would go. If you're going to carry a GoPro, I probably would shoot for something closer to 1100. Some people would be fine with the weight of a 1400. Personally, I like to be a little lighter. Vanover's a good motor. It's a fine motor. 5 by 3.5 by 3. Nothing wrong with that. Skyliner frame, sure. I don't know why you would buy an 850. That battery is completely inappropriate for this build. Don't buy that battery for this build. That won't work, especially because it's a high volt. No, it's not a high volt. Okay. I mean, it'll fly, but you'll get terribly short flight time. Don't buy that. Like 1,000 or 1,100 milliamp is the absolute minimum. Oh, that's a 4S. No, this battery is just for a different build, right, Teddy? It's for a different build. You just threw that in by accident. What is this 2.4 gigahertz? Oh, that's a Foxeer. So I don't know if the Foxeer Express LRS receiver is good or bad. I would stay away from it until I knew that it was good. I would focus on the Radio Master line for sure. If you can get them, is solid. This is a fine camera. Oh, a great camera. And the Speedy BF7, that's all good. That's all fine. I would personally pick a little bit smaller battery, but this is okay if you don't mind your quad being heavy. And I would personally go with the high volt VTX because it is going to let you get a little more output power. And that frame has plenty of room. But other than that, yeah, that's how I would say. When should the ESC sensor tab be clicked on versus off? Asks Craig Mitchell. Craig Mitchell, if you have a BL Heli 32 ESC that's using ESC telemetry, that's when you use ESC sensor. Okay, we're just about to finish up. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming as soon as I go off the air, or maybe sooner. But I really want to answer this question about the JBF7 flight controller real quick before I wrap up. And I have to finish installing Betaflight Configurator before I can do that. Okay. So this is firmware flasher, auto detect, JBF7 V2. And oh, they changed that to core only. That's nice. Instead of classic mode. This is all fine. Let's just do the standard flash and see what happens. It does have pin IO functions, so that user 1 mode should work. What else are we missing? Anything? None of that should be relevant. Okay, let's do the standard build and flash it. Flashing. Okay, most exciting. So did I tell you guys about this gas station I stopped at on the way back from Knoxville? Called Buc-ee's. So good, I bought a jacket. Siadi, apologies for going a couple minutes over. You're welcome to start your stream. Of course, I won't take offense. Or if you want to hang for a minute or two, I'll send all these guys over to your stream. Feel free to start posting that link if you haven't already, Siadi. Aaron Siadi is going to be streaming right about now. So let's connect, apply defaults. I just want to see if this is broken or not. And now we're going to go to the modes tab, and we should see a user one mode here, I hope. Yeah, here it is. There's the user one mode. So it's there. I don't know what you did differently, but I just flashed Betaflight 4.4, and here's user one mode. Boom, it's there. Now I wonder if I was to flash it using core only, I wonder if that gets rid of pin IO. Okay, so let's just wait one more second and try that and see if that explains what happened. Oh God, we got to wait for it to build. Well, anyway, I'm not going to hold up the stream just for that. That's my guess. But if you flash it exactly like you saw me flash it, user one mode should be there. And so that is going to answer that super chat question. That is going to do it, folks. We are going to wrap up now. I will see you again tomorrow at 8 p.m. And happy flying, everybody. I'll see you next week. Thanks for the stream. Riot9 says it was always there. Siadi, have a great stream as well, my friend. I'm out. Good night, everybody. Good afternoon.